Well, let's listen to DL and Liquid. Listen to what he had to say, DL Hughley. And first off, I want to say thank you if you're listening to this video and hit the super thanks button as well as the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. YouTube give you a whole lot of orders. So definitely do that. And if you want to support my page even more, my Cash App is Carceno. Thank you to all y'all who have done that. And while you're live, people who have super chatted, thank you. I really do appreciate that from the best, from the bottom of my heart. That's why I give you so much material and so much of my time. Now, DL Hughley, this morning on his radio show called the DL Hughley show, decided to address the Monique situation. And let's listen to what he had to say. I mean, this is after the fact, after contracts and deal memos were sent out. Let's see what happens.
All right, that was Khalid Talk. I work very hard to control the environment I work in community. I only work where I want to work and who I want to work for. I want to work with. I don't work because that is a very precious place. I've been offered a gig, a couple of gigs, 3 or 4 gigs to work with Monique in LA, in Brooklyn, in Houston. And I turned them down because I didn't think it would work. So after talking to a lot of people, and one of the very people in this room about how things are different, 2 of the very people in this room, as a matter of fact, and how things are different, and look at how things are coming around, I decided it would be wrong for me not to give somebody a chance based on things that they've never done to me. That would have been wrong to me. And when she talks, she goes on her diatribe and she talks about me having my feet under her table. That was at her invitation. I was doing a gig in Greenbelt, Maryland. She lived in Baltimore. She was having a fight party. It was, I think, Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson. And sure enough, I came to her table at her invitation. It was a wonderful time. As a matter of fact, it was based on that interaction, along with talking to people, I decided that I would do these gigs. I decided I would do it. And now I know what Tyler Perry knows. I know what Lee Daniels knows. I know what Oprah knows. I know what Steve Harvey knows. I know what Charlamagne the God knows. I know what Necklace knows. Saying yes to Monique is an occupational hazard. Now, we're playing a gig in Detroit this weekend. I know I'm going on at 9:45. I leave the hotel. I get there around 9. Monique had just gotten there. She's supposed to be there at 8:40. She had just gotten there, gone at 8:40. She got there at 8:38. What Monique was trying to do was to slow walk the show. She didn't end up getting on for 30 minutes. The oldest trick in the world is, if I want to change the order and I don't have merit, I'll try to make people wait so long that everybody gets nervous and go, please, just go on so we can avoid a conflict. That didn't happen when Monique got on stage. Monique actually felt like she had merit. She would have done 1 of 3 things. Either she would have took it up with the promoter, and she did. The promoter said, we're going on, and whether you go on or not, that's a different thing. You would have not done it, but she knew she had to get on stage, or she would be in breach of contract, or she would have come to talk to me. She didn't ever, and I emphatically emphasize this, she never once talked to me. I haven't seen Monique in years. I didn't see her at the venue before, after, or during. I haven't spoken or seen Monique. So if you really thought that you had a legitimate contract dispute, you would have come to me and said, hey, I have this contract and you have this contract. Notice not one thing on that contract, not one person she has on that contract, not one thing happened. Do you know why? Because it wasn't legitimate. And she goes on stage and she proceeds to eviscerate me. Not just me, but Steve Harvey, the sexual, my wife, my dog later on in subsequent conversation. Let me ask you something. What did any of that have to do with an alleged contract dispute? What did Steve Harvey have to do with your contract? What did I have to do with your contract? What did my dog have to do with your contract? What does my wife have to do with your contract? You wrote your contract, you and your daddy. You proceeded to say things that were so patently insulting that it was galling. It was galling. You asked in subsequent conversations why I have a dog, a support dog, what kind of person has a support dog. I have that dog because my father died. my children and family decided they would get a dog from where he was from, and I named the dog after my father. I don't have a dog to keep people away from me. I have a dog so I have my father with me all the time. That is an act of love which you know very little about. You proceeded to assault my sexuality. You had the temerity to assault someone's sexuality, a man's sexuality, given who you lay next to. None of that had anything to do with alleged contact dispute. You could have taken that up with a lawyer. You would have gotten out. You could have not gone on stage, but you knew you didn't have a valid contract. And you do what you always have done. You tried to weaponize black femininity. You tried to turn that audience against me. You tried to burn everything down, like you do all the time. Who calls Netflix and thinks I can get $10 million because I did the Queens of Comedy? Who thinks you can get on stage and still live off that? I was a king of comedy. You never hear me talking about it, because in this business, like any other, it isn't what you have done, it's what you do. That show was one I signed on to do. I made the quintessential mistake, the horrible mistake that, like Tyler Perry, like Lee Daniels, like Oprah, like all these people, of saying yes to you. And it is an occupational hazard. It is my fault. I have learned my lesson. You didn't just, and the thing that bothers me the most isn't the things that you say, because I know who I am and I know what I do, and I have a pristine reputation, and everybody who knows me know what I'm about. It's this whole, my dear, my babies, I love you for real, which is so transparently false, it is ridiculous. But the thing that was really the most annoying, the thing that was really the most bothersome, is after a terrible couple of weeks where people were being slain in Buffalo, where people were being slain, kids were getting slain in school, and people had come to a comedy show to get away from all of their problems, you besieged them with yours. The one contract that isn't in dispute is the one that the audience had with us to entertain them. But every single time, more and more, you spend half of your time talking about your grievances and what you didn't get, who did this to you. Listen, when you burn things up and you sit back to watch the results of them, she's literally set that stage on fire, said the most incendiary things ever, and I had to go on stage. She has the temerity to call me a coward. A coward would have left. A coward would have said, I can't go. You didn't even want to go on when you had a contract that you knew not to be true. You made up this whole narrative that you knew not to be true, and you played that out in front of the audience, and then I had to go on behind you. And you know what you did? You sat back and you tried to watch your damage. You set the stage on fire and you watched what you've done. You know who does that? Arsonists do that. Arsonists set shit on fire and try to see the damage it rise. But I blame myself, because I know now what I didn't before. Saying yes to you is an occupational hazard, one I will not repeat. I don't blame you. I wish you well. But when you do the things you do, when everything's about you, when you're vitriolic, when you have all these fights with all of these entities, it is you. Precious was not a movie. Precious was an autobiography. That is who you are, literally.
Now, he waited to go on his show where he basically complains, ladies and gentlemen. This man complained that these things were not in a divine order, or, this was not the way it was supposed to go down. This was supposed to, you talked about my dog, my wife, and all of these different things. This is what the man just said, right? What did my dog have to do with it? What did my wife have to do with it? And he goes right behind them, right? He goes right behind all of them. And he attacks her character. He name drops everybody that ain't got nothing to do with it. Keep bringing up the movie Precious. Like, that joke that don't fly, but that's his material. That's what you're gonna get with DL. And basically, he's doing the same damn thing that he's accusing her of right here on his radio show. Everything Mr. Hypocrite just said, he just did right there. He just talked about her husband live on the show. Didn't you just say, what does he have to do with it? The husband never said a word to you. But you just attacked the husband. So at some point, you got to ask yourself, what you keep saying her contract isn't valid. What was invalid about her contract? And what made your deal memo that you posted the legit one? Because in the entertainment business, a deal memo is what you guys proposed in a deal memo that you wanted. And if it was agreed upon, all the terms and the way it was worded and how it was situated, then you shouldn't have a problem when you sign your deal. Because whatever in the deal memo should be in the deal, unless it was amended and changed. Now, no one seems to be taking things up with the promoters, the people who put the event together. The two people are going at it. And now, Vivica Fox got involved. Yeah, Vivica. She's still around. And let's hear what old Viv had to say.
I'm side-eyeing the whole audience right now. Now, they are going back and forth on social media over who the true headliner was. Okay, so now if you look, Monique is
8:40 p.m.
Right, there we have.
Your Honor.
Okay.
DL Hughley.
Right.
9:45
And then
p.m.
Carson, wait. Also go back to the display of the flyer. So on the flyer, we have DL Hughley and Monique.
Needless to say, Monique wasn't feeling that sweet baby right there.
Yeah, they took the flyers, right, and they went to social media. And that's where I have a problem with that. And Sydney, the husband, he always in the background in these videos too. When she used to do her live show, Sydney, boy, he's something else. And my thing is, what was Vivica Fox doing? She didn't have all of the facts. She wasn't speaking on it and didn't know the situation at hand and just went with whatever DL said. So it's obvious she has a relationship or a friendship or connection with DL. So she's going to ride that wave and jump into the fire. So Monique decided to respond back to both of them, and this is what she said.
This past weekend, it was very eventful. And I had a show at the Fox Theater on Saturday night in Detroit. And y'all have seen a video gone viral with me speaking very openly and candidly about my feelings towards DL Hughley, the contract, and the past. And as I was on that stage saying what I was saying, let me be clear, it was intentional. It was intentional. The contract situation and the headliner situation, that was just the icing on the cake for DL Hughley and I.
Let's take them back, though.
Take them back.
Let's take them back to the beginning so everybody can get an understanding of where the love fest, if you will, ended.
Let me turn it up, Daddy. They said turn it up.
All right.
Okay. So let me just take y'all back to where when you think you're cool with somebody, you find out that you're not. Some time ago when DL Hughley, he still has his radio show, and they called me to do an interview. I don't want to do the interview, and I'm getting interviewed by the Sister Jasmine, and I can't remember the other gentlemen that were in the room. It was one of his producers, and it was another gentleman on the radio. And please forgive me, I can't remember their names. So we're having a great time doing this interview. Well, when we get to the end of the interview, the Sister Jasmine says, "Hey, Monique, would you like to play a game?" And I said, "Okay, sis, let's play the game." Well, when she said the game is called Would You Rather. So I said, okay, I'm down for it. And then the sister says to me, would you rather your husband sleeps with Lee Daniels with a condom or Corinne Steffens without one?
Breathe that in for a sec.
Now, for those of you who didn't hear it and you might just have joined the room, I want to take you back to that moment. This sister, a black woman, asked me when they were playing this game called Would You Rather, hey Monique, would you rather your husband sleeps with Lee Daniels with a condom or Corinne Steffens without one? Now, the question that I would ask anybody that's listening, is that offensive? Is that insulting? Is that going too far?
And how, when you are pro-black or portray yourself as a pro-black man, how is that helpful to the community to ask, would you sleep with Lee Daniels with a condom? Would you prefer your husband sleep with Lee Daniels with a condom or Corinne Steffens without? Because any way Monique speaks on it, what happens? You're downgrading the other person.
Yes.
And despite the fact that Monique and Lee were having a rift at the time, she refused to say anything negatively against them in that regard. She wasn't going to play that. But to your point, then what happened?
So, DL was not there that day. I said to his team, let me call DL Hughley, because what I know is that brother ain't down like that. He gonna have a problem with y'all saying that kind of foolishness. So I get DL Hughley's telephone number and I call DL Hughley and I say, hey man, I just did an interview with your people and this is what they trying to run. Like this is the game they trying to play. And DL's response was, that's just how we do. And that's what it is. I said, really, brother? So we attack families now? Like, what you doing? Like I said, that's just how we do. I said, DL, I would suggest you don't air that because I don't think it's going to make you look good to the community. Now, if y'all notice, that never got aired and I never said anything. Through the years, I never said anything. I kept it to myself because what I knew was that I was going to see DL Hughley again. Now, after that situation happened, it let me know for whatever reason, DL Hughley was not cool with me. For whatever reason. Then through the years, and I want y'all to hear me, please. Through the years, I've listened to this man talk about all that I'm not, what I didn't deserve. I was mentally ill. I was bitter. Me and my husband did poor business. I was selfish. I was fanatic. I was psychotic. Now, don't take my word, please. You can Google it for yourself. YouTube it for yourself. DL Hughley speaks on Monique. And through the years, my babies, I said nothing because I knew the day would come that I would see DL Hughley. Now, for every interview he's done, I didn't get it from nobody else's mouth. I watched it for myself. And I watched this brother sit down with that white cat, Vlad, and tell this white man all that I wasn't, as the white man told him all that me and my husband wasn't. And I watched DL Hughley go in. Now, it ain't that he just goes in on me. DL Hughley has a habit of saying freely what he wants to say about anybody.
Ice Cube.
Come on.
Angela Stanton.
Come on. Kanye West.
Mm-hmm.
Like the young babies. The young babies, the rappers, Young Thug and Gunna.
Yeah.
See, and let me tell y'all, when I made that joke about you, DL Hughley, I didn't think you would get tender in your feelings because you made the comment about the baby stage names and you said with names like that, don't you think they would wind up in jail? Well, that's what you said. Well, I thought I was coming back being clever, making a joke because you know back in the day when somebody was on the DL, you know what they were. I don't think you're a homosexual man, DL. I was making a joke and I can't believe you got tender. See, you got tender after you've talked for years. So let me be clear to you babies watching. Saturday night, I don't care where I went up on that stage, I was going to hand DL Hughley his ass. Because through the years, I've listened to this man speak so freely about my poor decisions, my life choices, and he spoke as if we had a conversation sitting down talking.
Now, please tell the good people out there what it is that made you go on his show to be blindsided by that question in the first place. What was it about your relationship that made you think he was a comrade in comedy?
See, y'all, I'm one of them old school kind of girls. I'm one of them old school, round the way, down the block kind of girls. And when you get invited to my home, that means something to me. And this was back in the day. This was back in the 90s. And I was opening up for DL Hughley. And I was excited. He was doing a comedy club in Upper Maryland. It was the night of a Mike Tyson fight. So no one showed up. 10 people showed up to the show. It was no judgment because everybody understood when Mike Tyson fight, the world shuts down. So for whatever reason, DL had the date. They booked me on the show with him. I'm excited. We get there. It's 10 people. I say, hey, DL, so the night's not a total bust. Why don't you and your audience, because they came to see him, come on back to my home. We can watch the fight. I'll fix some food. Let's have a good time. So I invite this man back to my home. Now, I don't know about y'all, but my home is my sacred place. But I invite him and his audience back so people wouldn't walk away disappointed that there was no show. So that's why I felt like from that moment to the moment I did his radio show and they tried to come with foolishness, I always thought DL Hughley and I were cool. Always. Never knew that he had so much to say.
And had Brother DL, because regardless of the beef, that's still our brother.
Come on.
But had Brother DL simply said, I apologize that offended you, I apologize for catching you off, I could see how that could catch you off, because had my wife came on there and you said something like that to her in reference to me, that would have been insulting, because we are supposed to be protective of one another in that regard. But beyond that, because when Monique told me that that's what he said, I personally didn't take offense to him utilizing me. I took exception to him utilizing Brother Lee and Sister
Correct.
because what had they done to him? Again, when you are a senior in the community and you're 59 years old and your history is you used to be in a gang, you dropped out of school, you got your GED, that right there is an incredible story of how somebody made mistakes, turned it around, came from nothing, and made something of himself. Can't help but give him props, be proud of it. But when you listen to him go after Ice Cube, because that man made a decision as a man to say, I'm not going to get that vaccination and it doesn't matter how much money it is. That's what you call integrity. When you have a brother named Kanye that has had the challenges that he's had, and you have him calling that man out as opposed to calling him up and saying, let me put my arm around you, and he and Steve talking about, we come from a place called Whoop Ass.
The Whoop Ass Tribe.
The Whoop Ass Tribe. Listen, that may have been cool when you were younger, but what you trying to give to the young folks, because if they get the whooping on people, they going to jail. I'm 54, DL 59, Steve 62, Monique 50-something years old. What we like look like?
57, I'm 54.
My bad, 54, I know. But what good would it do our old asses out here fighting? So the point of all of that is, there's an old saying, you live by the sword and you die by the sword. If you've been comfortable talking about Rizza Islam in reference to his opinion about a vaccine, if you're talking about our sister
Angela
Stanton and her views, but then she approaches you in the airport to see your personal opinion about it, but you call security. If you don't believe me, reach out and ask.
Okay, we sorry.
We saying to you then, we shouldn't talk about people and then not have the same energy when we see them, when we talked about them. But that's what happens when you start with people that didn't start anything with you.
Go ahead.
No, baby, go ahead.
And I want to address something too, because I want y'all to watch how people like DL Hughley will throw smoke and mirrors to try to distract from what it really is. If you watch the video of what I said, if you watch that video, I didn't say anything insulting in reference to that man's family, nor his beautiful wife. What I said is I feel sorry for your family. I feel sorry for your wife. Now the other part that I said, y'all know what it was, and I'm gonna leave it on the stage.
But to be specific, without being specific, you essentially said, I feel sorry for your wife having to perform a sexual act on a coward.
That's exactly.
How do you perform a sexual act on a coward? There is nothing that was said about your wife.
Nothing.
Your family.
Nothing.
It was directed specifically to you.
So let me be clear again. For all the shade droppers, tea spillers, candy bar biters, Saturday night, DL Hughley was going to get his ass handed to him because through the years, I've heard this man have a lot to say about me. And what the type of person I am, if y'all don't know by now, I wasn't going on nobody's radio show talking about how I felt towards DL Hughley. I wasn't going on nowhere. I was going to make sure the night that I spoke about DL Hughley, I wanted DL Hughley to be there. Now, I want to address something else. And everything I'm saying, please find it out for yourself. I want to address something. When DL Hughley says, and then she brought in Steve Harvey. See, let me tell y'all something. This ain't new. I watched DL Hughley and Steve Harvey sit on his show and lie.
DL show.
On DL show and lie. I watched Steve Harvey say to DL, we had to edit the show because Monique was saying some crazy stuff and we had to protect her. And then DL says, yeah, man, you was just trying to protect her. And then Steve says, yeah, man, well, let me ask this question. When did they get into the black woman protection business? So that's why I said Steve Harvey that night. So that night, DL, what you got back was the medicine that you've dished out to our community for so long through the years, and I want to address what you're trying to make the show out to be. Detroit, I want to say thank you for that amazing night, because it was amazing. And when DL says the people left disheartened and disappointed, and they were ashamed and embarrassed, well, let's address that, because I think it's only fair. From my understanding, Josh Adams kicked butt. From my understanding, Sister A. Rodriguez kicked butt. Now, I can speak for me because I was there. When I walked out on that stage in Detroit, those beautiful people, they gave me a standing ovation.
What happened when you walked off?
Those beautiful people gave me a standing ovation. Now, what has happened in that moment, and this is for the comics who have so much to say, come on, sweet babies, because this is Comedy 101. When you are the headliner, you have to meet the challenge. Regardless as to who goes in front of you and what is said, you have to meet the challenge. And what happened was, when DL Hughley walked out on that stage, he could not meet the challenge. See, I've had to go up on stage after people have been booed. I got to go up on stage because I'm the headliner. I've had to go up on stage after people have talked ill about me in front of me. I still got to go up on that stage. And my job as the headliner is to make sure when that audience leaves, they leave feeling fulfilled. So because you could not step up to the challenge, DL Hughley, you have now made it appear as if the night was bad. And if y'all were paying attention, my babies,
But finish your thought. He made it appear as if the night was bad.
he made it appear as if the night was bad. Just your night was bad, DL. Just your moments were bad, DL. And I want to address something else, because if you want to try to make me look unprofessional, let me tell you how much I get down for the people. I could have not gone out on that stage. I could have not gone out on that stage.
Well, why did you?
Because I love the people. I don't take those people for granted. I don't take the people for granted that may have paid their last dollar to buy a ticket to a show that I am a part of. I don't take those people for granted that said, you know what, tonight I need to come out and release this. I don't take those people for granted. So I could have not gone out on that stage. But because of the people, I walked out on that stage and I said that to the people. So when y'all say, well, why didn't she go out? Because that's just not the type of woman I am.
And I want to share something with y'all that y'all don't know about this human being sitting to the right. When she says it, she really means it. She had the privilege of being told by a gentleman y'all may have heard of, who said, never stop being who you are. Always be you, because you works. His name was Richard Pryor. And there's a gentleman by the name of Rudy Ely, that's the nephew of the legendary Paul Mooney. He was there and could corroborate Paul Mooney saying, you know they call you Mrs. Pryor. Why they call you that? Because you remind them of the female Richard Pryor. Now, when you hear other comedians talking trash about her, you got that from comedy royalty, the king, before there was a king of comedy. So that allows you to just keep moving forward and not take anything personally. But I say that to say, when you walk on that stage and you are a comedian, it is your job to be truthful to the audience. She doesn't work at the Quickie Mart. She's not a brain surgeon. Her behavior on stage is not unprofessional because it's indicative of the latitude that a comedian is given. They are given a comedic license to speak in reference to their life. And guess what she did? She spoke about her life because she would be doing the crowd a disservice to hold all that back and say nothing. And part of the reason why we're having the conversation out loud, because there are many of us who've been enslaved in our thinking to believe that everything that happens that's volatile, that could be construed as embarrassing, should be kept quietly. And what happens is, in self-defense, they teach women especially, if you are ever abducted in a parking lot, you must scream and yell because that is your best opportunity for survival. Because if the accoster, if the rapist, if the abductor gets you in the privacy of their home, you're at their mercy.
Come on.
So when you stay silent, you're at the mercy of the victimizer. But when the victimizer is trying to victimize you, it is your best bet to drag them out into the public end so they can take accountability for what it is that they've done. And that's what she did that thing.
And please, my babies, do your own homework. Pull it up for yourself. And then ask yourself, how many times am I going to get poked? How many times is people going to just start messing with people that's not messing with them? So again, what happened Saturday night? I'm going to say it again. DL Hughley was going to get his ass handed to him. Because once y'all go back all through the interviews, I'm going to be shocked. I will be shocked if y'all say, Mo, I'm surprised you didn't get this, brother. a lot sooner because it went on for years.
And when Brother DL says Monique does what a lot of women do, and that's weaponized feminism. No, what a lot of women do is they get mistreated because they're feminine, because they happen to be women. So when a woman takes the course of facing her opposition head on, she's a bitch. She don't know what she's doing. She being disrespectful. I mean, what's the name of the book Brother Steve Harvey wrote? What was it called?
Act like a lady, but think like a man. What? Do y'all see what we buy into? I'm not equipped to think like a man. I'm not equipped to think like a man.
And why does a woman have to think like a man in order to be accepted? Exactly. And then when a woman thinks like a man and dealt with DL head on, now it's a problem again.
But I gotta go back to this, Daddy.
Go back to it.
I can't believe DL Hughley. I can't believe Darlene, you a tender. Now that has nothing to do with your sexuality. It has everything to do with your heart. I can't believe you that tender. I can't believe, and she was, what is the word he uses? Because he's using one of those words.
It was vile.
Oh, yes. I can't. You, brother, you are in your feelings. I cannot believe that, DL. And that for the comedians, pay attention, baby. Pay attention. See, when you run your mouth about other people and you don't know who you running up into, and then you get to running into a brick wall, and then you want to play victim and fall out and act like you've been damaged, come on. Like I said, I feel sorry for your family, brother.
If I may,
yes, you
change
may.
Another direction.
Change it.
What we believe in is trying to put forth the facts because we love our people.
Yes.
And what a lot of individuals don't know is the people that he spoke about Monique having a problem with, he said they all are the same. And they're right. They all were people who stepped to her and she stepped back. Now that's the problem. If you notice throughout the years, what are the details associated with what makes Monique difficult? See, when they speak in generalities, it allows you to come up with your conclusion about how she was difficult, but they never go into the specifics. See, the specifics would be Monique has a problem with Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry. Oprah Winfrey for multiple reasons. Besides the fact that as a black woman who privately said, and here's that word again, privately communicated to Monique and I that her position for not campaigning for an award was right and it was fair because everything she did was up on the screen. In addition to the fact that she had no contractual obligation to do anything for Lionsgate. When you have Tyler Perry who privately admits the same thing, but also says, anything they ask me to do is what I'll do. When you have a billionaire who says, anything they ask me to do, I'll do, what begins to happen is they'll use his actions of compliance to put down everybody else. So Monique was supposed to do something for people that she owed nothing. Now, if you think that she was wrong for that, this is what I would suggest you do. When you go to work tomorrow, or if you're at work right now, go to your boss and say, listen, moving forward, I've been tripping. I've been looking for money at the end of the week for my job. Moving forward, I'm gonna work for you and let you make money off of me and I get nothing in return. If you think that what she did was inappropriate, the black woman is violated so much that y'all heard the recording of Tyler Perry saying he was wrong and he was gonna make it right and he is yet to make it right, but nobody is saying anything to him because he's Tyler Perry. There's a quote that goes, some people are fearful of the truth. They are fearful of hearing the truth because they are afraid it will destroy their illusion. We don't want nobody to take away our God. And we got to be connected more, not to who the celebrity is, not more to who's black, not more to who's white, not more to who's a Democrat, not more to who's a Republican. We've got to be connected to what's right. And sometimes when you're connected to what's right, you got to face the ridicule associated. But we rather face the ridicule associated with doing what's right than face the personal ridicule that we would impose upon ourselves for standing there and letting wrong happen and say nothing.
Now I want to address the contract and the deal memo.
May I help you with that?
Yes, Daddy. Yes.
Please forgive.
Hold on, take your time.
So, as not to freestyle, I pulled up the difference between the two. This will give you it in a nutshell. A memorandum of understanding, or the deal memo that DL Hughley presented to the people. It says, a memorandum of understanding is a document used to articulate an agreement between two or more parties. The document is likely to detail the scope of the agreement, the length of the agreement, and the state how the agreement can be terminated. A memorandum of understanding is often used before parties are ready to make a formal, let me repeat that, a memorandum of understanding is often used before parties are ready to make a formal agreement. Parties can use a memorandum of understanding to outline expectations and responsibilities before a full agreement has been reached. Unlike contracts, however, a memorandum of understanding is not intended to be a legally binding agreement. As a result, parties can typically avoid the agreement with no legal consequences. Let me repeat that, and I'm going to break it down in layman's terms. When they say, unlike contracts, however, a memorandum of understanding, which is what DL provided the community with,
Yes.
is not intended to be a legally binding agreement. By legally binding, that means that if you were to try to sue for what was not on a memorandum of understanding, there are no signatures. It is not legally binding.
I told y'all that, but y'all didn't want to hear it from me.
And the agreement, because he made the statement, oh, that came from his company. Well, the MOU came from UTA, which, as it says here, unlike contracts, however, a memorandum of understanding is not intended to be a legally binding agreement. As a result, parties can typically avoid the agreement with no legal consequences. However, that brings you to what Monique presented you with, which was a legal binding agreement. See, one of the key differences between a memorandum of understanding and a legal contract is enforceability. That means the key difference between a contract and a memorandum of understanding is enforceability. Contracts are created when two or more parties intend to create a legally enforceable agreement. Parties enter into contracts after an offer has been accepted with considerations. Parties to contracts are legally obligated to comply with the terms and conditions of the agreement. I'll repeat. I'll repeat. It says, parties to contracts are legally obligated to comply with the terms and conditions of the agreement. If a term or condition of a contract is breached, parties will face legal consequences. So, what does that mean? The documentation, hence the performance agreement that Monique provided you with, is a legally binding contract, which is the reason why, if you looked at the bottom of the contract, you saw initials on both sides, one from the promoter, one from our side. When he said this came from their company, it did, because the artist must have a standard contract she provides as a courtesy to the promoter because they won't know what it is that they need in order to utilize her services for hire. We wanted to get that granular and specific because DL was comfortable speaking in generalities. And generalities allow things to be hidden, such as the truth.
You know how you keep watching our stories over and over and over again, and the only thing that changes are the faces because the stories remain the same? And if you want our babies to believe that a deal memo is anything close to a contract, what are you feeding us, DL? You know that's a deal memo. You can put anything you want to put in the deal memo. That's what you would like. And DL Hughley has yet to still show his signed contract. And this is something else that I want to address to us. When I see the comedians having these conversations, it makes my heart hurt for y'all because it's making me understand how they are able to exploit, take advantage, use, misuse. I understand how it's able to be done because when y'all start standing up and you're fighting against a sister that's saying, you've got to treat us fairly. You're fighting against a sister that's saying, I earned that position as headliner. Didn't nobody give it to me? I earned that position. You got a sister that's saying, listen, I'm, as DL Hughley would say, oh, she's just selfish and thinking about herself. Anybody that's selfish, DL Hughley, would not take a 13-year hit in their career. See, if I was selfish, I would have taken the $500,000 that Tyler Perry tried to offer.
To be quiet about it.
To be quiet and make it go away. If I was selfish, DL Hughley, I would have had the conversation privately. See, I know the moment I say it out loud, I know the ridicule is coming. I know it's coming full force, but you know what? I don't care.
And when they say, we don't like the way they do business, why is it they don't get specific about
The
what
business
it
we've done.
is that we've done? The problem that is had with Monique, as with many black women, y'all not supposed to stand up for yourself. You're not supposed to stand up for yourself. If Tyler Perry says anything they ask me to do is what I do and he's a billionaire, well, who are you to stand up for yourself? See, we know we crazy. We crazy. Because everything that we're communicating goes, it is counterintuitive if you're trying to get the bag.
You know what, Daddy, though? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But if you're trying to get inner peace, because it's a lot of rich people out here, but they don't have inner peace. Everybody's mama, when they set out for Hollywood, say, don't forget us when you make it. I'm sorry, don't forget where you come from. That's what they say, don't forget where you come from. Well, we come from a little place called Baltimore, Maryland. Little place called Baltimore, Maryland. But it's no different from Detroit. It's no different from Philly, DC, Compton, Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas. It's no different from Nebraska. It's no different from New York. Where the real people live, they can relate to what it is that we say. They appreciate the specificity, the specifics, the granular discussion that we're having. We are not going to talk to you in generalities. You can't ask us, do we have anything up our sleeve, because we came here wearing tank tops, okay? We want to be transparent with you. I'm sitting next to a black woman who you want to call selfish, but y'all forget when he brought up Lee Daniels. See, Lee Daniels has a support team that tapped into that man's conscience, that made him say, let me go up on stage and give this woman an apology. I want my friend back, because I know, and if y'all listen to what he said afterwards, it's very important. He said, I got caught up essentially in the hoopla until I realized what was important. And it took an individual who had enough nuts, literally and figuratively, from the trans community named T.S. Madison, to have a real conversation with him. It took his family his sisters, his people, black women that circled him and said, do right, do what's right. And you know what? He was big enough as a man to do it. See, we don't fault anybody for making a mistake. The fault comes in when you know you made a mistake and you're not big enough to own what it is that you've done. And this black woman right here, because y'all, people are calling us selfish. Y'all wasn't there on the set when it was a white gentleman refusing to give Lee Daniels the light he was supposed to get. And he said, I'm not going to give Lee the light that he wants. And Monique pulled his card right there and brought Lee over and said, this man is messing with your life. Y'all wasn't there on the set of Almost Christmas when Will Packer was given direction over a black man named David Tyler, who wrote and directed Almost Christmas. And she said, hey, don't disrespect this, what?
Black man.
By giving directions as a producer over the director. If you don't believe us, ask the question. See, y'all weren't there when Monique was on the Parkers. And she said to the individual, because this is what makes her a problem. I need y'all to know she can be difficult. This is what makes her a problem. The individuals that you call extras, she calls background professionals. She had a problem that they were sitting around all day and water and lemonade was what they were given. And she said, why won't y'all give them some of the hot food that we eat? Because we ordering out and y'all ain't even eating. See, that is a problem. But who is it a problem for? Is it a problem for the people who are sitting there all day with lemon and water if they get hot food? Because they were there before
we get there.
Okay, and then
after.
Or is it a problem for the powers that be? And you got to ask yourself, who is she having these challenges with? Is it the powers that be, or is it the people in the support positions trying to uplift the show? And it's the powers that be. Now, if Tyler Perry, if Oprah Winfrey had the courage to do the same thing, Monique never would have been blackballed for 13 years because they would have said, we can't ask that sister to do anything for us for free when we don't have a contract for her to do anything with us.
Thank you, baby, because I want to address something.
Okay.
And I want you black women to hear what this black man is saying. I gave Monique a chance. DL Hughley said he gave me a chance. Well, here will be the question. To do what? What did you give me a chance to do? You weren't the promoter. No monies came from you. Who are you that you would be giving me a chance?
I told y'all that the moment he said that stupid statement he made. That statement he made was one of the dumbest statements a human being could make, but it shows you the vanity. Like, I've turned down opportunities to work with it, and I said no. Who are you? Who are you? This wasn't under your production company. You didn't hire Monique.
The arrogance that you could speak like that I gave her a chance to do what, DL? And then if you're going to tell it, please don't mislead people. DL and I were scheduled to do another show together. I want us to address it, and I want y'all to do your homework. If you remember the Super Bowl show that happened in LA, there was a time that DL Hughley was on that show. And then there was a time that he just wasn't.
But you were the what on that show?
Headliner. I was the headliner on that show. All these other times that he speaks about, it never came across our desk. So stop trying to pull the wool over the community's eyes. And what I would ask of the community, what I would beg of us, stop being so quick to jump on the bus whichever way it goes down the street. Be brave enough to listen to what it really is, not your emotions, not what you, listen to the facts of what it is. Go back and listen to what I said. I feel sorry for your family. I feel sorry for your wife. Listen to what I said. Listen to what I said when that man said, would your husband, or that woman said, would your husband rather sleep with these people? Ricky Smiley, would you be offended if someone said that about your loved ones? How about you, Roland Martin? Would you be offended if someone asked you that about your wife? How about you, Kim Whitley?
And he was also speaking in reference to wanting to give Monique a chance, and his people had warned him against it, as if he had some sort of prophecy seeing into the future ability. Let's clarify why he felt that way.
Why did he feel that way?
See, there was a show that he was doing on TV1 called the DL Hughley Show.
Yes.
They reached out to me to ask if Monique would come on the show. I informed them, per her statement to me, that she would not be coming on the show.
Okay, thank you. Okay. You got it, sweetness? Okay.
They then came back and asked, why? I said to Monique, would you like me to tell them? She said, please do. I expressed to them, Monique did not feel comfortable going on the show with an individual who was supporting a man that she thought was a friend, that would blindside her with the question that was ultimately putting our people down. So it was at that moment that DL knew there was a problem between Monique, but if you notice, he never made mention about that.
Why not?
See, we get into the specifics because we don't have anything to hide.
I'm sorry, Daddy. The way DL Hughley is playing it is as if I just came from out of left field and just jumped on this man. No, DL. See, what you can't erase are the interviews. You can't erase your words. Those are your words. You can't erase calling me mentally ill. You can't erase calling me all of these slick things, brother. That's what you said. And now you tender. Now you're trying to trick our community. So when you're talking about I turn people against you, no, DL, you do a fine, mighty job of that yourself. And what happens is when you get your own medicine, now we sit here. And I want to address something else, Daddy. When I listen to people like DL Hughley, and he says, and calling him daddy, that's so weird. And I listen to the people like the Breakfast Club. This daddy thing, that's so weird. And I listen to some other people. Isn't it weird that they got us thinking love is weird to each other?
In addition to, they failed to mention that I referred to her as
mama. So we have brought into people having enough reverence and honor and respect to call each other mama and daddy, and they've made our community believe that that is weird? Really? So again, when I say I feel sorry for your family, I stand on what I said. Because anytime you're pouring into the community to show your spouse how much reverence you have for them, how much love and honor, and y'all have brought into it is weird. And I want to address it because I see some people writing down, oh, that go her husband again. Yes, there he goes again. God damn it. There he goes. Here he will stay. And because it looks so unfamiliar,
right,
to see a black man standing with his black wife, because it looks so unfamiliar to us, some of us sweet babies will try to pull it apart.
But when you get pulled up by Miss Sherilyn in the Whole Foods and she grabbed you by your arm and she pulled up her girlfriend who easily was in her early 70s, and they say, we proud of how you stay by that black woman. We proud of what y'all doing. We can take all the ridicule, all the insults from anyone. What we trying to imply and confirm for individuals that are together, utilize your name, because the system, the business, the world is designed to divide us. out of the individuals that you've seen talking about the poor treatment that women get in this industry, how come you never see their management with them?
How come?
And the reason is, it is not in the best interest of management to speak to the bias that is attached to their black artists. And the reason being, they are beholden to the studios. Because as Monique was told by a former manager of a larger agency, and I witnessed it, he said, it is in our best interest to be on the side of the studios. Why? Because artists come and go, but the studios still stay.
And when y'all are saying, Mommy, call DL, I have no reason to call DL Hughley. If DL Hughley would like to talk to me and my husband, there's an open invitation. We would love to come on the show. But see, I didn't open up the door to this. DL Hughley opened up the door. Now you want to run and hide and close it, and now you want to talk and act as if you have been victimized. That's where the shame should come in. That's where the shame and the embarrassment should come in. See, there's no interviews y'all can find of me speaking about DL Hughley. There's not one interview in the history of interviews that you will find me speaking ill about DL Hughley. Not one, but there are several out there of him speaking of me.
And others.
And you're right, Daddy, because it ain't personal. And others. You run your mouth. And now I would like to address the dog and your dad. Because I always want to make sure I'm playing folks fairly. See, really read what was written in reference to you having a support dog. Really read it, my sweet babies. Don't let a person like DL Hughley cloud your head on what he wants you to know. The words are there. The words are a person that would need a support dog is a person that should never speak ill about anybody because they have their own concerns and issues that they're dealing with. Now, when you speak about your children and your family gave you that dog because you were really close with your dad and the love that y'all have and you want to keep him with you all the time, I respect that. And I hope that your dad told you, son, don't mess with people that's not messing with you because you're going to get your ass handed to you. I hope your dad shared that with you, so as you're walking the dog full of love in reference to your dad that is respected, I hope you take the principles and the morals and the values that Mr. Hughley fed into you to say, hey, brother, treat people like you want to be treated. Now, you treated Monique like you wanted to be treated. You talk shit to that baby for years, and then Saturday night, you got tender. How does that make sense for all the comedians that's watching? What are we teaching them, DL? Are we teaching them it's okay to act that way? For the older veteran comedians that got involved into this conversation right here and y'all started speaking foolishly, what are we telling the babies coming behind us? See, that's important to me. I know for some of y'all, it ain't important to y'all. You got yours, they got theirs to get. It's important to me what they see. It's important to me that they did see that contract. I'm glad you showed that contract. Sweet babies, if you are your own business, you should have your own contract. I don't know what kind of business DL does, that he would have a deal memo and say that that is a contract.
And you now know, for those who didn't know before and those who heard, the difference between a deal memo and a legal binding agreement. That deal memo is not enforceable. So why would he give you a deal memo that is not enforceable in a court of law? Look it up for yourself. Versus showing you a contract, a standard contract that has been written up by our attorney. And please understand, in your 32-year history of being a stand-up comedian, how many times has this happened?
This is the first time.
And we understand the promoter needed to grow a pair and tell DL what this situation was, because he got on the phone with our attorney and I, and said he couldn't understand why DL's people were acting the way that they were acting when we don't have a contract. I made a verbal commitment to him, but we don't have a written contract, okay? Now, I don't know about you in 2022, because we don't have horses tied up to a stick outside for them waiting for us, where a handshake and your word supposed to mean something. The man said, I didn't have a contract. Now, he could have been lying. But DL provided you with a memorandum of understanding. A memo is what it said. You read it. So when you get a chance to see it, compare it, listen. Don't be afraid to go with what's right, because they will get you based upon who's popular. Don't do that to yourself. You're doing yourself a disservice.
And I want to address it, Daddy.
Kid.
For those of you who had questions about my professionalism on that stage, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing it for a long time. So for those of you who had questions about how I handle my stage performance, listen, that's my stage performance, and I'm unapologetic about it, Vivica. I'm unapologetic about that stage that I go on.
Vivica who?
Vivica A. Fox. I'm unapologetic about what I do on that stage. What you are not is a stand-up comedian by far. So for you to have any questions about it, ask somebody that can really educate you on what that stage is, not someone that want to host and take female comedians around and get paid off of their craft. See, I don't mess with anybody, y'all.
And a lot of individuals that have had a lot to say have been individuals that have confided in Monique. They were friends.
Through the years.
Like Sister.
Like Sister Vivica, like Sister Kim Whitley, like through the years, y'all. So it is important for me to say this. It is important for me to talk to the little girls who is not here yet. It is important for me to talk to the babies who's in the 7th grade and 8th grade and 9th grade and they're thinking about getting in this business. It is important for me to let y'all know what to look out for. I'm obligated to do that, and I'm gonna tell you why. When y'all gave me the title of auntie, I didn't ask for it. I didn't sign up for it. I didn't campaign for it. I didn't write a letter. That's what you babies begin to call me, and I took it as an obligation.
And an honor.
And an honor for a community to now look at me as a 54-year-old woman and call me auntie. So my job is, and I'm obligated to say, this is what you must look out for. This is what you must watch out for. Because people that you welcome into your home, people that you break bread with, people that has cried on your shoulders, baby. You cannot be in your feelings when they go across the street and get on the bus to say, well, now we're going down to the left. It ain't personal. It's just what it is when you know the history of Hollywood. However, what I want y'all to know about me, it's important. I am not the sister. I'm making sure that it is. Can y'all still hear us? I want to make sure we didn't. If you can still hear us, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. What I am not is the sister that you can poke, that you can say what you want to say, that you can make fun of and you can joke, because what I am is a comedian. What I am is a comedian. That's what y'all forget. And see, Vivica, when you questioned and you said you side-eyed the audience about them saying they were clapping for me and how could she do that? Were you listening to the audience in front of me? They were entertained, sister. They were laughing. Some were standing. Some were hollering. They were enjoying themselves. So I hope now you don't take what I'm saying to you personal, because I don't take it personal. I just want to address it so that maybe y'all will think twice before y'all start speaking on people's lives and their decisions, because you have your own issues.
And we have to stop being comfortable with hearing the tea spilled on someone else, but now you're uncomfortable with a black woman sharing her own personal experiences.
Yes.
She ain't dropping dimes. She ain't spilling the tea on nobody else. She's not spreading a rumor on somebody. That we're comfortable with that. She's telling to you, and she's speaking to you in reference to how do we avoid the pitfalls that's out there designed to catch us up.
How? So, June 18th, I'm going to be in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Come on.
At the Duke Energy Center. And will I have some shit to say? Yes, but I keep the stage. I keep this. When we talk to our community, it's in nothing but love. And I love us for real. Despite what y'all want to think, I even love the ones even more who don't get it. I love the black women even more who tell me to shut up and sit down because I know I gotta fight for your babies. Because you damn sure not. You damn sure not. So for every person out there, every black woman out there, I'm speaking to us. Every woman out there, be unflinching in your position. Be unwavering in your position and don't let a damn soul bully you. I don't care who it is. Let them know when they run into you, they running into a wall. So DL Hughley, you ran into a wall, brother. You ran into somebody that said, I ain't taking that land down.
And when you run into an individual, because people don't understand why Monique is the way that she is. See, when you run into an individual, because you wanted to tell your story in reference to the dog and their history and things of that nature, and that's fair. You're looking at a woman that was molested at 7 by her brother, her older brother, okay, 15, 16 years old. Then that brother walks her down the street and lets 2 other of his friends do the same thing to her. When she gets old enough and understands the level of violation that she experienced without her mother and father coming to her aid, she realized I gotta sometimes do this myself. I gotta fight. I'm not gonna let nobody else take nothing else from me. The only difference now is Daddy and Mama, we're gonna stand together in this and let folks know that's what you're supposed to do. They got us fooled in believing what we doing is wrong. No, we supposed to stand together and uplift our community. And black men out there who are out here attacking these black women for taking a position, that's a sign of weakness. That's a sign of weakness. And I want to shout out the good brothers like David Banner.
Come on.
I want to shout out the good brothers, like our main man from Full Force, Bow-Legged Lou, who always shout us out.
Come on.
Okay, they supported and say, stand strong.
Come on.
Maurice Duncan, that y'all don't know, but that's my man. He's a PR cat. They get some of the baddest cats on there.
We can't forget Mr. Nashville.
Can't forget Brother Larry Nashville.
Cannot. And I want to shout out a sister. Couple of them. One sister's name is Corey B.
Come on.
And that sister goes on the road with me. And when that sister told me after it was said and done, not when it was happening in the moment, when I found out people were putting her off of shows because of her relationship with me, and she looked at me and said, if you rockin', I'm rolling, bitch. I don't care about them people putting me off them shows. See that sister right there? She one of the baddest in the game. But there's another sister in this game that is a legend, that is a vet, that is so brilliant at what she does. And that sister's been calling me the whole way through. And her name is Roseanne Barr.
Come on.
The one we tried to throw away. See, I can't name the other black female comedians that say, hey sis, I'm just calling to check on you. Just want to make sure you're good, because the fight is for y'all, goddammit.
Because if she's sitting here with some of the most prestigious awards, she's sitting here as the only comedian in the history. And some people will say Whoopi Goldberg. No, she's the most brilliant comedic actress in history in terms of what she's done. She's a monologuist. But in terms of a stand-up comedian, Monique is the only female stand-up comedian in the history that is of color to have ever won an Academy Award. And you can tell me about the white one that's won it. A 22-year running sitcom, the first black woman in the history of the game to have a sitcom go 5 years, 100 episodes. But y'all didn't know that, and they don't want to talk about that, and they want to keep it quiet, because if you don't speak about what it is that what you've done, then it's like you've done nothing.
And DL, let me address you on this, brother. When you say it's what you're doing right now, see, you've made people believe I've stopped being a stand-up comedian. I've never stopped being a stand-up comedian, baby. I've been out there on that road doing my thing the whole time. So stop trying to put a false narrative out there. That's Steve Harvey's big word. Stop trying to put a false narrative out there that, oh, I just disappeared. No, brother, Hollywood doesn't stop the show. You know that, DL. You've been in those comedy clubs. As a matter of fact, there were times you was leaving and I was coming. We didn't stop doing what we do, so why ever would you try to feed that into the community?
And I also want to thank Brother 50.
Come on.
Curtis Jackson.
Come on.
You didn't have to say what you said.
Come on.
But you did. Appreciate you. One black man to another.
I want to talk right to our baby. From one black woman to that beautiful, pure-hearted black man. And let me be clear. I'm saying Curtis 50 Cent Jackson is of pure heart. So when y'all get to talking about, oh, 50, you next, oh, that's a man, that's a king. He's of pure heart, baby, and he's principled. See, we have conversations offline and people got to saying, she ain't thanked 50, she ain't said nothing to 50. We don't have to have our relationship online. And that brother ain't said nothing. When people try to turn that thing into something ugly that it was not. So again, for you, brother, Curtis.
We love
you. We love you, baby. And there are those out there that we don't know your names. We want you to know we love you. We want you to know, for the ones that's been down with us, been rocking with us, been buying the tickets, we love y'all and thank you, my babies. So we appreciate y'all joining us on this live. DL, an open invitation.
And I want to share one thing with you.
Share it, baby.
Leave you with this. Something I heard, this ain't from me. It says the individual has always had to keep from being overwhelmed by the trial. If you try, you will be lonely often and sometimes afraid. But there is no price too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself.
We love y'all, my sweet babies.
For free.
Now, wow, that was a lot to take in. But there's nothing else more to say right now. You've just heard it firsthand. So what more can I say to follow that? I mean, you heard it all. There's nothing more I can say. There's nothing more I could do. We told you about DL Hughley. We told you about those puppets. We told you about this industry. We told you about the connection. And he talked about, do you hear me talking about the kings of comedy? You can't talk about the kings of comedy because it really wasn't about you. The kings of comedy, you were only on there because one, the producer did not want to get Eddie Griffin. Let's talk, because they couldn't afford Eddie Griffin to be no opening act. But they didn't want to grab Eddie Griffin. Steve Harvey campaigned for you to be the next guy on there. Because really, to be the kings of comedy, most of y'all, or most of them, were basically unknown. Steve Harvey and Sid had the show. That's how we knew them. We knew of Bernie Mac, but Bernie didn't become big till after the Kings of Comedy. But we knew Bernie Mac, so we knew what Bernie could do, but Bernie didn't blow up till after that. None of them really was anything to where they are now until after that. Steve had the show, and that was it with Sid. But you got to understand something. At that time, that was essential. It was very essential to have that unit and put on that production. It was basically a show to audition, but if those weren't the kings of comedy, which one of them really was? Bernie is a king, period. He was comedy royalty, you know, that's why he closes the show. It's like, oh, well, we just decided. No, Bernie goes last. Because Bernie's going to close it out. You can't follow Bernie. Bernie got to close the show. That kind of energy and smoke, you don't want to follow that. You let him close the show. But other than that, Sid's a good comedian. Nothing's wrong with them, but were they bigger than Chris Rock? You know, Eddie ain't did stand-up in years, but he would have been the essential king of comedy after Richard. But you don't have Chris Rock up there. You don't have Eddie Griffith up there. You know, I mean, you ain't got, TK Kirkland, in my opinion. I listen to TK. I'd throw him up there. I mean, you don't have any of these guys on that stage. But calling it the kings of comedy. Now, Martin Lawrence, to me, a lot of people love Martin's stand-up, but he's a better host for doing like what she was saying earlier, monologues. But I wouldn't, a stand-up special, and he's good at physical comedy, characterizations, and things like that. That's really his strong suit, which made him better for Hollywood than basically strong stand-up. So, to me, I wouldn't put Martin on that list. It's talking about the kings of comedy. He did a lot for comedy, though. Because if he wasn't the host of Def Comedy Jam, it don't take off. And you got to be able to control that wild crowd the way Martin did. To take the mic and do that, that's a gift. Now, I'm trying to think who would be the only fourth person on there. Hell, I would have put Bernie on there. Bernie would have melted to the ground. But that's the direction I would have went with it. I would have had Eddie in there. Definitely got to have Eddie. Well, Chris Tucker, no. Tucker was way gone, like doing rush hours by then, so he wasn't doing that. But it was good for them. You know, it was good to put comedy on like the movie screen. Like you paid a ticket to go see the Kings of Comedy. So that opened up the doors for people like Kevin. Kevin Hart wasn't there yet, people. Cat Williams probably. I would say possibly Cat. Even though I don't think Cat's set was strong enough at that time. No, but if I had to do it today and do that, yeah, I mean, I'll still be taking that list. That's just the way I see it, but you know, everything is different now. So thank y'all for rocking with us this long. Hopefully you guys have liked the video and everything. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. So we'll talk about it later. There's nothing for me to really say because she said it all. She addressed all. So any comments I got to add would be extra to the situation. But DL Hughley likes to tell lies. He likes to manipulate. This is why he's on CNN. This is why they choose. They know who they grab. These Van Jones and all these. They know who they grabbing. They don't just take anybody. They take the right person for that job. Know when they sitting in that chair, that individuality is gone. Those are company men. I gotta go. I'm a holler.